Are we ready to call the meeting to order? Meeting called to order. This is a budget meeting, and the object of this meeting is to either open the budget or not open the budget. In speaking with our solicitor, if we choose to open the budget, we can do so if we want to change per se the millage rate. The millage rate has already been voted on by council to be set at 1.5 mils increase. If this council chooses to open the budget, it can change the millage. If we choose to keep the millage at the 1.5 level, then we can choose to rescind the motion to open the budget, and then we will not be under any constraints of deadlines at all. So first I'll take any motions that if people want to make to address the budget.
A motion? No, I would like to discuss it for one thing. But anyway,
Okay.
we got a big crowd. As we speak, our millage right now is 10 3/4. Okay. In December, I guess it was December. Was it December that it was actually voted on to raise the millage to 1.5 mils, which would give us an increase of a substantial amount of money. To raise it any higher than that, me personally, I'm not in agreement with that, for the simple fact that we have to show where this money is actually going to go. In my opinion, what we would make at the current rate that was voted on, I'm very satisfied with that. In fact, I would have even been satisfied with a 1 mil increase, but it was voted on for 1.5 mils. So that's basically all I have to say about that. So, anybody else?
I'll join you and I'll say, I wasn't in favor of the tax increase at all, but I wasn't on council at the time. I wish we didn't do 1.5, because I would rather see us look at this budget realistically and talk about it and do that. But unfortunately, that's water over the dam. I can't change it. It is already set at 1.5.
No, I don't believe that's true.
Oh, we voted in the...
I believe you can.
It is, but if you reopen the budget, you can change
You
it.
reopen the budget, you
Right.
can rescind that and make it
Right,
not a tax increase. But
Right.
I caution
Okay.
council, if you do that,
right.
and we run out of money in October, we have no
Yeah.
money. There will be layoffs.
Right.
As a reminder too, we're under time constraints. Everything has to be done pretty much.
By the
Here
15th,
tonight.
by the 15th of
Tonight.
The
February.
case we make has to be advertised, for 10 days to the public. So we have to pass it by the 15th of February.
Correct.
Mayor, I do have a couple questions for council. A
Okay.
couple things I'd like to point out. I read the budget over my phone. I have not yet been able to get a copy of it. I haven't been able to get down there and get a copy of the budget. What I saw in there, I don't know who generated those numbers for the Bureau of Fire budget. Nobody consulted me nor asked me on what our needs were going to be for next year. And what I saw was something like $5,000 for fuel per station. Or I think it was just $5,000 for fuel. Let me look and see.
Sure.
Gasoline, diesel.
Yeah, $5,000 for
$5,000 period.
That is about $15,000 too low, I can tell you that right now, especially with fuel prices going up. I can give you what our costs were last year. We don't really have much control over that, other than me preventing them from going to grades or something. Nowhere in my budget is the $58-some thousand that we pay for the rental of the fire hydrants. I don't see that in here anywhere.
So add another $58,000.
And then under state workers' compensation, where it says $45,000, Beck, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that number higher?
It is.
So that number is considerably higher. We are trapped in the workers' compensation. We have no control over that because we fall into high risk as a volunteer fire service. And there's only one policy that's, well, two policies, but one policy is carried, and that is, what the hell's the name of it?
Swift.
SWIFT. We can only use SWIFT. And we do what we can to keep those rates down. They do an audit every 3 years, and we score fantastic on our audit. But there's not much, a whole hell of a lot we can do about that. The rates are what the rates are for the workers' comp.
So should we add 25,000 to that?
Beck?
I would say yes.
So
To the
what?
workman's comp.
To the workman's comps, the fireman's state workers' comp, yes.
25,000.
Now you have under item 411, 2.51, first vehicle services at $40,000. Beck, I believe that number's higher this year. I think we go up incrementally every year, and I don't think we're at 40, I think we're over that. Although half the fleet's been replaced, I believe we should be able to go to first vehicle and get a reduction. Because, you know what I mean, we have a lot of new vehicles in the fleet now that aren't over what they call the 15-year limit. So we should be able to negotiate with them unless we signed a long-term contract with them, which I think we may have.
I don't know.
It may be year to year,
Yeah.
but that's something we need to investigate.
Okay, we can meet with them.
And then some of the things that I was, okay, so we have 411, 390, that's vehicle purchase, repairs, and insurance.
Can you hold on 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ondo does not have a copy of this.
I don't have a copy of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your folder. I'm so worried about making sure you have what you had in it. I'm sorry.
Negative.
Would any of the public like a
I
copy?
do have copies of it.
I didn't have the budget.
Thank you.
I was here, but you guys were just voting on the budget. I didn't have, you know, and I have no say. All I can do is plead my case. What I usually do is come to council, and they would have us come in, and then we would present a budget to council and what I thought we would be needing for the future of, you know, that year. We did that 4 or 5 years in a row. Always, we submitted a budget to council. This year, and last year as well, Joe kind of just, I believe the last borough manager just kind of used numbers that he thought based upon the previous year's numbers. One of the things that I was asked to do several years ago when the borough was in financial trouble was knock 10, 15% off our budget. We would knock 20% off our budget. Nobody else did that. But we were doing that, so I had to tell guys, no gloves this year. We weren't buying nozzles to the following year, hose to the following year, stuff like that. That's how you get 20% out of the budget. Because insurances, fuel, and that stuff, that's fire hydrants, that stays in there. The fire hydrants drives me nuts that the fire hydrants are in the budget. People see that 58 grand or $60,000 in the Bureau of Fire budget and think it's us spending that. It's not. That's what it costs to have a fire hydrant on your street. We rent them. They're about $5, and we don't have the option to say, we don't want these, we don't want these. That's it. We have that many hydrants in the borough, like 275 or 80 hydrants. They cost between $500 and $600 a year to rent. You know, Homestead, West Homestead, everybody does.
And he brought that up many times.
And our
But that doesn't come under general fire.
Eddie, how much do we need to add in for that?
Chief, can you go back to first vehicle?
Yes,
Can you
absolutely.
give us a number that you think we should be at first vehicle?
Well, we have to look at the contract. I don't have it in front of me. Beck, you're gonna have to pull that contract and see what that was. It was on an inclining basis.
So 40,000 we're gonna go with, or we're gonna, or shouldn't we go with?
I think the number's low.
Okay.
I think that number's low, but I've been wrong before.
Well, let's go make it 60,000. We'll add 20,000. Is that a fair price? Fair number.
And 60 might be high. So we're somewhere in between.
So we'll go 55,000.
Okay, 55?
Yep, just as a we're just going general numbers here, because we're just talking what you guys are gonna need.
And this is what should be done. We should be talking.
Eddie, what did you say the fire hydrants cost was?
58,000.
Yeah, you'd have to look and see what it was last year. It's not, I don't think it'll go up from what it was last year, Beck. You should have a final number on that.
Okay.
The water company bills us, I think, either annually or quarterly for that.
For the fire hydrants?
PA American.
Yeah, it's like 15,000 or something like that,
There's
14,000.
no number.
It's not in
Not
this
even
year's
It's
there.
not in the
It's
budget.
not?
Not there.
No.
It's actually, we pay it just like we pay a utility.
Monthly.
But if you go,
They
if you
bill us
go,
quarterly.
if you go down to 411.39, it goes fire vehicle purchase, repairs, insurance. Is that 125,000? Is that some of First Vehicle's numbers in that?
No.
No.
Just asking.
That number there, if you see fire vehicle purchase slash repairs slash INS, I assume INS means insurance.
Right.
So I just, as you know, Rick, just finished up and finalized the insurance policy.
Right.
So our portion of that insurance policy will be around $32,000. Beck, I think I sent you that, which should be paid hopefully immediately so we don't have a lapse in coverage.
Right.
Just so everybody understands, that policy is the total insurance policy on the fleet vehicles. That's the liability and everything that you have on your regular vehicles. Plus the replacement value insurance that we have on, we don't have a replacement vehicle, we have what's called agreed value. Replacement is way higher to get. So we have agreed value insurance, so if we roll a fire truck, we get an agreed value that we pre-establish. And so that covers all the vehicles in their entirety. Also, in that insurance is included in some of the stations, some of the contents of the stations and so forth. If we had a major incident or a water break or something at the station or a fire or something like that, the contents of the station are included on the vehicles. It's the equipment on the vehicles that we buy, the hose, the gear, all that stuff is included in there. And I will tell you that that insurance policy is important because one time I went to a fire in Glassport and the next day I was called and told to take all my gear and SCBA out of service. So instantly number 4 was out, 15 sets of gear and SCBAs because it was contaminated and we never got it back. We turned it into this insurance policy and they reimbursed us for all that. Without that, number 4 is out of business.
Is that 32?
But that happens at almost every, that could happen in any fire call we go to. So that's what that insurance is, you know, we break a nozzle or ruin some hose, that helps pay for that. And then when you see on there that fire vehicle purchase, that's not purchase, that's the truck, that's the annual truck fund allotment that we give every year. That's $67,000. Now it's 60 from the borough. St. Teresa's Plaza gives the borough $7,000 every year. Well, they give 10. 7 goes to the fire department by their, request in lieu of them paying taxes because they're tax exempt. So they give $10,000 to the borough and they say, hey, we want this to go to the police and this to go to the fire because we're there all the time. So they jacks up we've always applied that $7,000 because it affects all the department as a whole. We apply that $7,000 to the truck fund donation. That makes that $67,000. So,
Well, what's the additional,
where you see repairs,
125?
when you see repairs down there, that is, if things go wrong, I gotta take a vehicle, there's stuff that's not covered
It's
under
not
the first
covered on
vehicle
the first
policy.
vehicle stuff, yeah.
If the vehicle's over 15 years old, we pay all the repairs on the vehicle. So fortunately, we're kind of flipping to where most of our vehicles, a lot of our vehicles are replaced. But that's what that is. They hold that 15 years on us. You don't want to get me started on that. We've had meetings with that. It affects, just so you know, it affects the entire borough. It affects the mechanic back there. That's all part of one big package policy that we do for first vehicle.
How long were you had it?
10, 15, maybe 10 or 12 years.
We ever looked at anybody else?
Many times.
And nobody could beat them?
I don't know that that's, I'm sure, I don't know. Just from the fleet side of it, on the fire side of it, I've expressed my dissatisfaction with them many times, as council's aware of. We've had them in a couple times.
The police and public works,
They're
for
satisfied.
instance, are very satisfied with first vehicle. But the fire department is not, because there's so many things that they don't work on because they're 15 years old. Or because, I really don't know if they've ever worked on one of your trucks, have they?
Yeah. In defense of first vehicle, I'm gonna say this. Whenever there's been a repair on one of the older vehicles that's not fully covered, Scott from First Vehicle will usually negotiate and gives us probably a better rate than if I could take the truck down to someplace and get it serviced.
But there's places that specialize in working on fire vehicles.
Yeah,
You've
I
often
always
brought
wanted,
up that
yeah, I wanted
you
to,
would like us to use.
right. I, in the past, wanted to use Lowry out of McKeesport, they specialize in fire equipment. But I understand that the balance of the contract affects the police and public works as well, so it's not necessarily, taking that leap for the fire department may not benefit the borough as a whole, so I haven't stood on that too hard. Everybody knows when I'm mad at first vehicle, though, I can tell you that. But definitely diesel fuel and oil, that gasoline, that's gotta go up to, what did you put on there, Rick?
I put $20,000.
Yeah, that's, we're gonna come in less than that, but that's, we'll probably be 18, 19 grand in fuel. That's what we spend.
So I have an additional 153,000 we need to add to your budget, which would make your budget $477,675.
Tacking on those things, which is,
Tacking on all that stuff.
How did you come with those numbers? Because I don't have that.
55,000 for the first vehicle.
No, we would be adding 15,000.
No, 55.
What did we say we were at?
there's
50?
it's already 40, so you're adding 15.
Oh, we're at 15, okay, I apologize, you're right, that's not right.
And we're adding 15 to it again.
Correct, so we're adding 15.
So we're 15 plus 15 for the hydrants.
No, the
Oh, the
hydrants.
58 for the
The hydrants are not in there, so we're adding that whole number.
Yep, 58 plus 25 for the workman's comp,
What did you say?
for the workman's comp,
How much?
for 25,
Right?
In addition to what's on there.
right,
Right.
I thought it was 20.
We put 25.
25. So we're 15, 15, 113,000.
And then another 10,000 for gasoline expenses.
Okay, so
Roughly.
that's 123, 10, okay, yes.
How much for that?
So 123,000 is what we're adding to it.
123,000?
Yes, at 324, 675. Would make it 447, 675.
Now, for some reason, that number does ring a little high in my brain, in my head, just a little bit, not by much, but maybe 30 grand high, for some reason. But we've always been right under that 400,000 mark, with the cost of insurance. And by the way, we were able to save, $38 with the insurance this year on the vehicle insurance.
So this is just one example of how none of us really here are prepared to really go over this budget, because it's not a fine, it was not done as it was done in the past. In the past, which the chief just went over, you would have a night where the fire company would come in and they would go over the budget, what they asked for. You would have another night where the police would come in and ask for what they needed for. Administration would do the same thing. That sort of has been gotten away from. And none of us sitting here can really say that we're actually experts on the budget, on where we're at. We are really working with our right hand tied behind our back, because we no longer have a borough manager here to refer to. So just keep that in mind while we're talking about this. Go ahead.
On here for real estate taxes, it says 4,209,000.
Where we at, Donna?
First
On the
page,
first page.
first page, second line down.
Okay.
I called today and I was able to get the total assessed property value, which is 3,792,172.28. So that's a difference of 416,000 right there.
Can you write that number again? 3,000,000.
The assessed value, I called today from the county, and it's 3,792,172.58, which is actually 52,172.58 more from last year. So where he got this 4,209,000, I have no idea.
So that's another discrepancy.
That's where you got
That's a
it.
big discrepancy.
You want it like this? No, I'll use this.
So that's a savings for us.
My
No,
guess,
No, that's a loss.
No.
That's a loss,
That's a
yeah.
loss in revenue.
$416,000 loss, yeah.
Right.
And that's with an increase of 52,000 from last year, because of the change orders.
That's 500,000.
That's real estate. That's the county told us.
That's 500,000.
Expect to bring it over.
Over
That's $500,000
539,827.42.
minus 500,000. Go ahead.
539, 827.42.
That's a big number. So take that off the income.
What's up, Mike?
Becky, could I ask, where did he get these where did he even come up with these numbers? Like,
My thought in that number is probably that he looked year over year, figured out what we collected, and just added the 1.5 to whatever was collected for the year, from last year to this year.
The millage increase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
millage increase.
Millage
What would
increase.
millage increase be at 1.5?
What do you mean?
Little over
village increase for 1.5.
If it was raised for what the additional
1.5.
assessed value, not compared to last year, that would be 4,645,411.41, which is an increase of 568,826,
Which would still be $1.5 million though, right?
No,
Yeah.
It would be close.
a 12.25%.
Yeah.
Using what number? Using
Yeah,
4
1 and a
million?
half would take the millage up to 12.25. And that should bring us in, now there's, the collectible amount then will be 4,645,411.41, which is 568,826 more than last year's. However, you also have to take into effect the, whoever has the grid, Kevin, I think you have the grid, the other things like senior relief, the people get it's over 20,000 unpaid, 226,000, discount was 69,000 last year, additional penalties was 11,000, so that's
Minus 350,000.
right from that amount that I gave you, from that
So
total.
So wouldn't, instead of using the 4 million,
209.
I don't know which numbers you're using. 4,645,000.
That would be the collectible.
Why aren't you using the 3,700 and
Because
792,100? Why aren't you using the assessed value?
That would be at the 10.75, I'm doing it at 12.25 if you go up 1.5.
1.5.
Okay,
so now
If
you're
you go
really
up to,
Okay.
if you
200,000
go
in favor.
2 mils at 12.75, you would get 758,435 more.
okay.
You went up,
So if you're keeping it the same, though, the millage, the assessed value you're saying is 3,700,000. But if you're keeping it the same here, you're saying it's 4,076,000.
the collectible minus everything else on the grid.
Senior.
Okay.
The,
So
you
that
know,
number and this number
he
are
ask
really the
you
same
for,
number.
That's pretty good money, yeah.
Did he ask you for all those numbers? The grid and all that? Did he ask you for?
who, Joe? No.
Did he?
Well, he gets my monthly report.
Did he ask you
And then
to?
annual, no, he didn't ask me anything.
Okay.
And like this, that figure I just got, it's 52,000 more. I just got that figure today from the county.
Yeah.
so basically, I'm looking at this adopted budget, and this doesn't mean anything. Am I right?
We got a lot.
Well,
It does.
no, it's a guideline,
It's a guideline. It's not set in stone. It's a guideline.
but there's a lot.
But there are some numbers that it looks like we need to do some work on, and we got to do it tonight.
It's, correct me if I'm wrong, I might be out of place to speak, but we've come to these meetings for 25, 30 years. It's quite normal, you have to adopt the budget before the first of the year. So it's quite normal to adopt the budget and then reopen
And
the
then
budget
reopen it,
again in
right.
February. That's been done every council for
Right.
the last, as long as I've been
Sure.
to these meetings for almost 30 years.
Sure.
That's been done, that's quite normal.
Sure.
Whether it's this extreme or not every year, I can't remember the arguments that we've had in the past. I know we've had them.
Yeah.
So, That being said, where are we at on paving in this budget?
But we got $400,000 in there right now.
Where are we at on what line number is that?
Oh, hang on one second, I'll get it to you. It is on 438, 241, it's under Public Works.
241?
Yeah, 438, 249.
What is it?
438 is on the last page, last page, 438, 249. We have $400,000 in there. The big things that we added in this year was the paving for 400, the maps for 25,000, and the recreation matching grant for 300,000. Those were the really big things that were added in this year.
And typically, what did we spend last year in our paving?
Like 175 somewhere in there.
So what you're saying is if we don't match that $300,000 grant, we don't get the grant if we don't match it.
Well, I know that we have a certain amount of time that we have to match to do it. Like, I think-
Sometime in 2023.
I think it's
believe.
2023,
But I
so
forget the exact.
we
number.
just,
I don't know if
we put it in there to make sure that we got it taken care of.
Well, we want to get it started though, so.
Yeah.
We don't want to leave, I don't think we want to take it all out because then what we do next year.
Because you have to-
You don't want to lose it.
We have those plans that we had put together.
That hurts
so-
you in getting future grants because we don't use it,
Yeah,
we lose it,
Yeah.
and that hurts you in future
Yeah.
grants. It's good.
So, Mr. Hannah, you had a question?
Yeah, I guess the context where this proposed budget was based upon the increase of the millage, okay, as far as the income coming in. I would sit there and say, the fire chief said that people that proposed the budget, which I don't know who did, to be quite honest, obviously he's involved with part of it. That, is at least $70,000 off, or close to it, because you said you were about $400,000 a year. Has the police department or public works or any of the other departments, they verified that the proposed budget is indeed in sync with what's on this paper?
I haven't heard from anyone.
So I asked
And we
the
did.
borough manager,
He's no longer with us.
he's no longer with the borough.
Correct.
May I ask when he left?
21st,
21st of this month?
January.
So we're a little bit in the hole on the context of what was, as far as the last council, the councilman that was headed up the budget was Councilman Stein. Was that also the case for
Yes.
finishing out the year?
No, he's here. He's still here.
He's still with us, he's just not here
He's
tonight.
just not here.
Okay, he's physically not here.
He's not in
Correct.
attendance.
He's not here.
Not in attendance.
But he proposed the budget itself. He's still in charge of the budget. Did that change also?
No, nothing's been changed yet.
Okay. So the reality is we have a budget that's based on income-based. If you looked at the things that are the major things that come in the door, okay? Like in any budget that I've ever looked at, working over the years, I concentrate on the big items. So the biggest item is the real estate tax. So we seem to have a difference right there of $3,792,000 before the millage increase. Is that what I got? So now with the increase in millage, it takes it up to, you're quoting a number over 4 million?
Right.
$4,645,411.
On the expense side, going into 2022, is that the first year that the bond issue hits?
We've already paid a bond this year.
No, but did it also hit in 2021? Was there an expense paid for the bond?
Yes,
Okay, so it's not a new expense,
right,
so it was paid for before. So the previous budget had that in it.
correct.
I guess the thing from the standpoint of opening the budget itself, or not opening the budget, but any changes need to be finished by when? When is because you're gonna have problems.
February
right?
15th.
15.
What's the drop dead date if you don't open it? When can't you spend money?
we can spend money.
Because the budget was approved before.
Sure, but it's, you can go back. So I guess the question is without a borough manager itself, you know, is he at, I mean, this is not a court of law, so you can't subpoena him, okay?
He was gonna attend the meeting tonight, but he sort of left, and he's not been in contact with me, and I had asked him to attend this budget meeting several weeks before he left, and he was up to that, but apparently he decided not to attend now.
So if you're trying to dot the i's and cross the t's, would it not make sense then to meet with the police department, the fire department, public works, sanitation, and look at their expenses itself? Because right now, I don't see you've got a lot of balls in the air on how you probably couldn't stay with the budget and hope that the expenses themselves are not so conservative that you're going to end up short. I mean, I think over years of work experience, if you don't do that, you'll be discussing something similar in October or November, that somehow you're going to need fund to run the local government.
Do we not have to have the advertisement? Don't we have to have the decision made by the 15th? And if we're going to open the budget, then we have to advertise that we're opening the budget 10 days prior to that meeting.
Correct. And
Which
that's
would
what,
be-
that's what the publication you just showed me.
Yes.
We need to put that in the paper.
Well,
That's just it.
yeah, that's in the paper, but I'm just saying, when do you have time to do, I mean, I guess you could do them whatever nights you want needed to.
It would have to be
Talk
February
to the-
1st, you would need to put any advertisement for future meetings, and even the 10-day thing, almost on tomorrow, you have to put it in our local newspaper, because
Yes,
the following week, it doesn't fall
within that 10 days, right,
be 3 days short. The
yes.
following week will be, because if you do put it in on the 8th, we're short, so it has to be done tomorrow.
Then you have to advertise the ordinance, don't you?
Right.
Yeah, 10 days, yeah.
And do we
Yeah.
have
10 days for that.
contact the solicitor
Yeah.
about all this?
We certainly will.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes, sir.
did you apply for a tax anticipation loan for this year?
Yes,
Yes,
Is it already set in stone?
yeah, we already got it. Yeah, we got it.
We did that.
There's money to get us through the tax anticipation, but the problem is, you know, if some of these numbers aren't right, then we're
my
in
concern is the
trouble,
end of the
you
year.
know, like the gentleman said over here, you know, October and November.
So we're already showing a discrepancy, a large discrepancy in the real estate value, for one. And then the fire budget alone is $123,000 discrepancy there, that we're gonna need that, more money in our fire budget alone just for that group. So then we would actually need to go through what Mr. Hannah is suggesting, is sit down and speak with Public Works, ask them, you know, what their budget, if these budgetary numbers are correct, and then sit down with the police department and do the same. And then obviously we have to go over our expenses for administration as well. And that would take into the fact of what we're paying into the bond, what we're paying in for the building maintenance on both buildings, this building and the other building. And certainly makes things for tough decisions.
But don't we have to have it in the paper 10 days ahead of time?
Yeah,
And we only got 15 days?
We do.
yeah, so you'd have to have all these meetings in the next.
And you ain't gonna be able to do that.
There's
Well,
no time.
What can be done, what should be done is someone should go ahead and sit down and speak with the fire department and say, or the police department and say, go over these budget numbers, bring them to us on such and such a day. And then go to Public Works and sit down and say, listen, Public Works, this is what we need from you, are these numbers okay? We're trying to get a budget, true budget number down here. And then come to, there's gotta be, is there one day that we can meet?
Yeah, I mean, that's up to you guys if that's what you
I
want.
mean, is there a day that we'll meet, we can advertise for that meeting and have the numbers put together and have the general work done, so that when they come into a meeting, that we can sit down and say, okay, these are the results of our inquiries, and the head of the police or the head of the public works can give us the numbers and we can get it done that day. Is that feasible? Am I wrong in saying that, or are we correct in saying that?
I'm not sure, Rick. I think
I don't
we need
think
to have
there's
it
enough
done, I think we need to have it done tonight. I don't think there's enough time for the 10-day,
Well, that's what I'm asking.
to get, I don't think we have enough time for the, the 10-day for it to
So then,
go out there for public view.
But can't we, throughout the year, amend things if they
We
need?
can.
Yes.
you can amend the number where you're gonna spend things from one line to another line to another line, but the millage needs to be set,
Your bottom line can't change.
right?
This meeting is to vote on your millage and the budget. You can change all this stuff in there.
The other stuff doesn't matter. We can take from here and add to there, we can move this to that to that. But the bottom line is the budget needs to be, the millage needs to be set, and,
It's set right now, right, at 1.5.
I think it's set right now.
It's set at 1.5.
Right.
And the question tonight is, do
Say
you
we
want to
leave it
increase
there.
it anymore, or are you trying to open it and rescind that?
exactly, that's how I started the meeting.
I think we leave it at the 1.5. Just a thought we're gonna get a jackpot. Because we know government doesn't move very fast. So you think you're gonna get all these people to give you their stuff in so many days, it's not gonna happen.
I agree. I'm just
not gonna
asking,
happen.
I'm just asking you.
I mean, we're, what, 15 days from the deadline, and we're just talking about it now. We should have been talking about this 3 weeks ago.
In
don't-
November.
September.
So Donna, when I
We
was,
should have been talking about it in September, yeah, you're right, but I'm talking about, I've only been here since the 3rd of January. We should have been on this 3 weeks ago.
when I was talking to you about this, about raising it and stuff like that, and you were telling me that there was only so much that we could do, or basically we would get in trouble, correct?
I remember in 2019, that they said you can't have an overage somehow, but I don't know the law about that. You'd have to defer that to Greg.
Are we allowed to ask what the audience thinks? I mean, we'd love to hear your input. It's great to see people come.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you for coming. Please don't be afraid to express.
Ernie, do you remember?
I'm speaking for myself. I don't know.
Do you remember about when they had all the reassessments in 2012? And we should have lowered the taxes, but we didn't, but you're not allowed an overage. Do you remember that law? Do you remember what it was? Is it a certain percent of the assessed value? Yeah, I would probably defer that to Greg, ask him.
Anybody else got any questions?
So now you base this, Donna, this amount of money, you base this on how much per residence? Do you base this on like a value of a
The
residence?
total county assessed value of all the property.
Yeah.
All the properties assessed.
That's the amount that I got today.
So how much would you say per household it would go up a year?
There's samples on what I gave you. If you have a $100,000 house, do you have it? Yeah.
I think it's about $175 a year.
Exactly.
It's a lot of money.
150.
That's a guess,
yeah,
not
yeah.
a figure.
Not as
thought
much
it
as
would be.
150, don't it?
That's what I thought it would be.
$100,000.
Yeah, and then I did one current, like if you had an $83,600 house,
Yeah.
it would, and you raised it 1.5 mils to $1,225. The face amount, not the discount, would be $125.40. If you went 2 mils, it would be $167.
I was basing up $100,000 value.
That was on the $83,000 house. 100,000, it would be now $1,075. This is face, not discount. You go up 1.5, it's $1,275. 2% would be or 1,225. 2% would be 1,275. So 200 if you go 2 mills on a $100,000 house.
So you're looking at 15%, $15 a month in someone's mortgage. Or,
whatever.
yeah, $15 a month.
You know, it doesn't sound like a lot of money until people are on a fixed income and they're paying to fill their gas at that amount of money, and they're also paying more for food, they're also paying more in school tax that nobody says.
I 100% get that, but you have to figure out the cost of increases of everything that we do and not having touched these taxes for 12 years. I mean, there has to be somewhere,
And if we
or
don't-
we're gonna start
if we-
cutting stuff out. We just
if-
have to start cutting it out.
We've cut a lot
$15 a
out.
month's forever too.
What's that?
That $15 a month is forever.
Correct.
It doesn't
Correct.
end any time.
Right,
It
right.
goes
You're
on,
right.
Yeah, it never comes down.
never comes down.
Never comes
Right.
down.
Nothing ever comes
It
out.
doesn't go away.
Right.
And next year, if it's not enough, we have to come back and ask for more.
Right.
You wanna do that?
School does. School goes highest allowable by law every single year. And not only are they raising the taxes every year because the computer tells them to, they lower the homestead exclusion. It used to be 13,000, it's like not even 9,000 now. So not only is the taxes increasing, they're lowering the homestead exclusion every single year. And the borough gets blamed for it. Because I get all the calls, yeah, what's wrong with the borough?
Donna gets yelled at.
It's a skull.
Right. And that's
where your money goes.
I was just gonna bring that up.
It's double
You know,
what we get.
if we raise the village, say we raise it 2 mil, next meeting, there'll be standing room only in here. People, you raised it 100 and some, but nobody will go to that school board
Right.
and say a word.
Right.
Meanwhile, you haven't had kids in school for the last 30 years, but you're paying that amount of money. Nobody will say a word.
Yeah, but, I mean, everything is going up, the salt, the gas, the salaries, is that right? It's all going up, but at the same time, do you want that $15 a month, or do you want your salts done, your salted streets done less, or another policeman off the street, or something like that?
Correct. You have,
No, we can't do that, God forbid.
yeah.
Right,
Oh my.
One thing we do gotta remember in the budget though, I know there's, a manager's gonna be hired, of course, hopefully next month. So we do need to get Becky another help. We can't work the office with 2 people anymore.
Thank you.
We
It's gonna
should,
have to be another person.
I agree.
If you just have a manager and Becky. in there.
I think we need to
For
hire.
our size, 2 people in that office is not enough.
I think we need to hire a part-time person in there first,
Right.
till we can get
Look
someone
into
in
that.
there who we wanna know is a full-time
And if they
person.
work out well, then maybe possibly.
I'm certainly up to volunteers coming, if we can get volunteers to come in and just answer the phone and say, hello, this is Munhall Borough, please can answer a phone for a month till we get by this crisis. I would be all in favor of that. I don't know how the rest of council feels, but I certainly would be happy with a plea out to the residents to do that.
We contact the school and the seniors that have to do their community service projects?
I don't see why we couldn't.
Wasn't there something, Becky, that there was gonna be an internship from somewhere?
Yeah, they're just not gonna do
We're gonna
a receptionist type of
Someone
thing.
will be available.
They're coming in, they wanna come in and learn the borough work, like borough manager stuff,
An internship
engineering
is only
stuff.
gonna be 12 to 15 weeks too.
Nobody's through.
And probably only 3 days a week, you're not gonna hear every day.
That's true, but at
Enough
the
to
same
be
time,
taking
your little
classes,
help's better
right.
than no help. you
Right.
know. And 15 weeks is better than nobody coming in.
I will tell you that I'm holding my head, my lips above water at this
Right
point.
now, I mean, it's probably impossible to train somebody right now because Becky can't get her to work down there to train somebody.
There is
At
so
this time,
much
so much.
finance stuff that has to be done versus HR stuff, and right now we have a lot of HR balls in the air.
We do. But someone could pick up the phone, answer the phone, and
Yeah.
write it down on a piece of
Right.
paper.
Yeah,
Intern basically is not gonna want to be for phone calls.
No, I know that.
there's one for you. Thank you.
We have a
Oh,
meeting
yeah,
set
he's
for our
not-
manager.
He's sitting Great.
You gave it to Joe and Joe threw it away?
Yep.
Yeah.
Rick, wasn't that maybe invested? Maybe a firm in.
Got a question?
Yeah, well, comment, question, whatever. I think I don't want to pay more in taxes. I don't see a need because water's going up, gas is going up, everything else. But we don't have a choice at this point. What I would like to see though is between now and say July, get the information. I mean, not only, like you're saying, get your information from your department heads, but what else, what are we spending money on? Where's it going? What are things actually costing us? Time, labor, you know, when somebody rents Westfield, are we actually getting what it costs us at Westfield? I mean, I know the Little Leagues don't pay anything, but when we rent that out, what does it cost us to clean? What does it cost us for the lighting? Anything else that is involved? Back in the 90s, I went to the University of Pittsburgh for an event that was being held in Pittsburgh, an international event. They wanted $1,000 for a field, nothing more. You wanted toilet facilities, that was more money. You wanted lights, that was more money. You wanted seating, that was more money. And it kept going and going and going. And it had to be at least, it was $250 an hour for a minimum of 4 hours, whether you used it or not. And if you wanted it longer, it was more money. But they included all of the costs. And I'm curious, since we don't have any information from the departments, what are our real costs? I mean, we have budgets, but what is it costing us? How long does a salt truck last? And all of that information over the next 9 months or 6 months, whatever we can get, at least to give a better idea.
If you want to know, what the fire department spent for the last 20 years, come over and see me. I can show you where every penny of our money was spent on every single purchase and every dime that ever went out. Glenn and I have it broken down to the penny. Show you all. Let you know if you want that from the fire department, walk this.
Yeah, no, to be honest with you, you guys seem to have your act together. More so than any other department I've seen. At least from the discussions that occur here and have occurred over the past 4 or 5 years that I've sat here. Or sat in on these meetings. But I don't think we know what our expenses are. I mean,
We know what our expenses are.
Okay.
She could pull up against it for the last 10 years.
how much more money has to be spent on this building to bring it to code?
I couldn't answer that right now.
Okay, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I mean, we
You have
budgeted.
a concrete slab that needs to be poured out back. What's that gonna cost us? To bring this ramp, are you gonna have to be putting a ramp in
I
here?
mean, we got that budget, we have money for that, we got a grant for, what, 300 something
Wait, I have a
thousand.
question.
No, that's not part of your road. This is,
Like
And the engineer would have, the engineer would have
Doesn't that match
that.
up basically to the budget?
but we don't have the information.
The engineer
The
has.
audit report?
The engineer has it, and I gave him his Friday printout that of every single thing that was paid this last 2021, everything. It was
So-
140 some pages.
$300,000 and everything in this building is fully functional for our needs.
That's about it, though.
But, I mean, it'd be less than 300 for what they need to be completed now. I mean, for right now, like the ADA, there's 2 things that are outstanding.
I understand that.
That's
but
it.
Now, I don't see any fire things here unless the circles or the drop-down fire. If they are, we spent more money than we needed to. But then again, maybe you don't need fire suppression equipment in here.
This fire sprinkler system, the building's fully fire sprinkled, it has a full fire alarm system. It doesn't require any of the emergency lighting systems that you may see because it has an emergency generator outside which provides 100% capacity to this building should the power go out. But it's fully sprinkled, they're above your head, they drop down.
Okay, but could we have spent less money? I mean, it's too late now. But if we didn't use the drop-down and use the standard pipe mount,
No,
wouldn't have saved us money?
No.
Okay.
100% positive of that.
And
That's the trade I'm in, that's what I do. I didn't have anything to do
I
with this
believe
job. You couldn't have saved any more money on the fire sprinkler system just because of the people that put it in, trust me when I tell you.
Okay.
My company would have been 25% more to do the same job. Just telling you that right now.
Okay, and that's fine. But that's, you know, so many questions, and I would, you know, this, when Mr. Varhola originally spoke of this building, he said $3 million. Then it went to $5 million. Then it went to $7 million. And it's still not finished. You've got a slab, like I said, that concrete slab out back that needs to be poured in order for the police to bring their prisoners in. You have this taped off for whatever reason. That has to be corrected. What else? What other costs? It seemed to be everything was compartmentalized. So there's this building. There's the building next door. The fire report I saw, and again, I'm not picking on you guys. You're the most detailed I can find. It's saying that the roof is falling in on the fire department, on the fire trucks. Pieces are falling down. That's an expense we've got to cover at some point. Where's that money going to come from? What else has to be fixed in that building? Or are we building a new building for the fire department? If so, how much is that going to cost us? Where's that money coming from? So many different things. Okay, police utility services, $35,000, great. What does that actually mean? And like you say, you have the information, but a lot of this stuff doesn't seem to be correct or total.
Well, you're touching on a lot of subjects.
Yes.
And those subjects were never thought through. There was never a plan to go from that building to this building and deal with that building. So this is a true statement. It never was thought out completely. We still have the original municipal building, which, in my opinion, we shouldn't have left. So we're not fighting fires that were fought 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We lost that battle. We're sitting in this building. We're here. What are we going to do with the other building? Now that's a different question. You know, I think we need to repurpose the building. I'm not up into demolishing the original borough building. So we need to work on that, but we have to work at this one step at a time. We can't just walk in, swear, I take the oath, and have the world crumbling upon us and say we're going to solve all the problems in one day. There's a lot of problems and there are a lot of things that were left on our laps.
Yes.
These two gentlemen didn't even care to come to the meeting, the budget meeting. So let's think about where we're going to start and where we're going to stop. We can only do so much.
And from my experience, it'll be a month from the 3rd. I've done more for the borough in the month than they even pay me for. So I've been out there, I've been going to classes, Miss Reenie's going to classes. We're trying to fix things, do things. We're always trying to figure stuff out. But stuff don't happen fast in the government.
No, I'm not saying anything against the council. I'm just saying, I think you're going to be stuck with the millage that you've got. But are we going to have to increase it next year? If we could break down what our expenses actually are.
Well,
and
so here's the thing, Mike, and I didn't want to interrupt you, and you hit on some really good points. Here's the thing. We're on the first floor. We have floors above us that we could rent out or sell to make some money.
Right.
We are probably, there's going to be an X amount of police officers that are going to retire. Okay, are we going to hire new and more police officers? We don't know. Here again, we don't know what our finances are. We don't have a clue. To touch on what Rick said, we went from that building to this building. We still don't have an occupancy for this building, but no plan was ever thought of what to do with that. None, zero, none. So right now, when it's 3 degrees outside, we're heating this building and we're heating that building.
Right.
Nope, but nothing was. What are we going to do with the fire hall over there? What? Leave it there and still we're going to heat and cool the building. So guaranteed, folks, we were handed a truckload of
garbage.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you weren't. And I remember then Mayor, now President Council asking, in one of the meetings before all this started, what about the fire department? So I know the questions have been asked, but we never seem to get answers. It's not, there's no follow through, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So Mike, the people who did this are no longer here.
Right.
Except for two.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
I don't know here right now.
Mark Charney comes in and does the borough audit in detail for months. Or his, what's that, Joe's usually here. Have you seen the audit report?
It's online, it's on the
I've
website,
not seen it.
it's on the website.
Because what I'm wondering, is his report in this budget, do they match? Or is there a discrepancy? That's what I'm asking. They didn't get a copy of the audit report?
I don't remember handing it to you.
Okay. That's what I'm wondering. That's why we do audits, to catch any discrepancy. So you can match it up to what Joe has and what Turnley has. Turnley would be catching it. Like, yeah, I know he does mine to the penny.
Yeah, he does, he definitely does this. We
Has
do
he
it, we
done
go
ours
right down to the penny. Hmm?
I didn't
Has he
know.
done ours yet?
He does them starting in September. He should be finished late September.
For the
the
previous year.
year.
So it won't be 21, it
So-
would be 20.
20 is what he just finished, and then 21 will be finished in this coming
Why
September.
does he come so late?
I don't know,
He should be here now.
I don't know.
They usually come in March.
So here's the question, do we stay with the 1.5 mils that was actually voted on? Do we open it up and raise it to 2 mils? Or do we leave it 1.5 mils and see what we could do by renting the ball field over here, renting these floors, doing whatever we have to do, see what kind of money we would save with the police officers? Or again, there's the $1 million question.
I have some
Go ahead,
suggestions.
My-
So, you're mentioning, in the budget as far as income, it's saying $60,000. Okay, total income coming for the rest.
Mr. Ham.
Does that seem close to what last year is?
No, because Chatham University gave us 50,
Okay,
so we
so,
had others.
I mean, so you're looking,
Can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
oh, you can't hear us, okay.
Thank you.
So my question is, okay, in each one of these things, so, let me say one thing. Back when we met at St. Elias Church, okay, and you all were candidates, and I felt you were going to win. I basically asked the question, what you guys were going to do when you were saddled with a budget and expenses associated with if you won, okay? So, we're here, okay? That's the reality. So now, so you can't undo that. You all got elected, okay? You have this budget, you have all that right there. The real question is, okay, so now you have this 1.25 mils, and you have a lot of nebulous things. You really don't know what's in your proposed budget because the borough manager's not here, and the gentleman on council who's in charge of budget is not here, okay? So you have a lot of variables there and a lot of unknowns. You also have a timeline to fit, okay? You gotta advertise in the paper. So I think your hands are tied, okay? I really do. But I think, now, in preparation for the next meeting, when you have the mass horde here, what you do need is a lot of help from the fact that, gentlemen from the fire department's here, okay? And he seemed very willing and very up forward with his information.
Always ask.
I mean, I would think you should be able, the police chief would certainly pitch in. I'm sure the mayor can have that discussion.
So we got a new one.
Okay.
New one, then.
And Public Works. And I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done right there, so the massive people that come in, that are going to be angry, that, you can have an explanation of that. I can remember when I was president of Munhall Baseball, okay? And there was a whole lot, there was a number of residents that weren't happy with that PA system. And we had one of the board members, he said the wrong thing at the wrong time, and it just went through the ceiling. Basically, Mayor Bodnar had to solve the problem, and calm everyone down, you know what I mean? It was kind of like pitchforks ready to go, okay? So unless you want pitchforks, but I don't think any of you do, okay? You know, while I don't like paying other taxes too, what's really unique, okay, on the budget and the expenses is really clarification, okay? That what you believe is gonna come in income and what your expenses are gonna be. Even last year when I saw the proposed budget, the last year's proposed budget was, the initial one that I saw, actually was with adding the $300,000 for the bond, was showing less money coming in the door. And I asked that question at our meeting, okay? How can you do that, okay? So you got a $300,000 expense. It was in last year's budget, so that's a good thing. That's not a new one. You did mention paving. You did mention a grant right there that sounds like you need to match. And then one other item which I would sit there and say is going through is you really need to look at what expenses are variable and which ones are fixed or contractually held. You have to pay, like any business would do. And it's really getting down to the business of doing that itself and working with people to do it. It's unfortunate. I guess one other question, should the borough solicitor be here?
I would say so.
Would you mind?
Because, I mean, questions in reference to millage going up or down, your ability to change, and that's why you employ this gentleman, right? Okay, for legal opinion. You have no borough manager right now. I'm sure you're looking for one. And you have two councilmen that are in attendance tonight, and then I guess the borough engineer. Do we have a borough engineer?
Yes.
Is he just unable to attend this evening?
He usually will come,
What's that?
he only comes for council meeting most of the time, he's asked to come, right, Rick?
But I would think this was a published meeting, and it was about the budget, and because there's a lot of questions about the budget, and most of us don't know, he should be here. For example, I did ask Rob, and he wasn't positive, and I'll just use this as an example. Under police salaries, it says $2 million, okay? And I'm just saying, I said to Rob, so if we would get the homework and we see all this, and it only comes up to $1.5 million, are we allowed to take that $500,000 that's extra?
Yes, you can move anything around.
But he said he thought it would have to go through a motion.
No, I think you still need a motion to do that. You can't, just, you know, you just, I don't think you can just, without a motion, just say, okay, we're gonna put that $2 million there, that 500,000.
You just can't line on anything you want, move anywhere you want.
You can move it.
You have to have a
Yeah.
Have to motion, that's what I'm saying. I think we do need a motion.
So,
You know, so at a public meeting, our manager or Becky notices, hey, we're really coming under budget here. Maybe we need a motion to put on there that we can put 100,000 here to the public work, to paving, or whatever, you know.
Right.
Because, for instance, the police budget is probably gonna come under, like she said, because we're gonna be down some officers this year. Then we'll reevaluate about what we need to put on. But we're gonna be down a little bit. And that $300,000 for the recreation matching fund grant, we know that is not, we're probably not gonna put 300,000 into that, because some of that can be in-kind donations. Our public works maybe will do some of that work to knock some of that $300,000
Right.
down.
Yeah.
There is grants
Yeah,
for
yes,
matches
yes.
on recreational stuff too. But, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's the one that's for Troutman Field and the Vine
It
Street.
is a matching grant for recreation.
But some of that 300,000, I think that was put in high, because knowing that as a worst case scenario, that some of that can be used as in kind.
So going
Public
back,
Works needs to do a little bit of that.
going back to what I was saying, we still need to do that now anyway.
Mhm.
Even if we're not gonna meet that deadline of that 10 days, we should go back to each one of our departments and say, hey, we wanna go through this line item by line item and see where we're gonna be at. Why not do it now and then be ahead of the game from last year? And then we can see where we're gonna be at. No matter what we have to do tonight, as far as opening or keeping the budget where it's at, that's gonna be what it is. We need to get on top of things and see how we're gonna go through the next year.
Is there any way someone can meet during the day with these heads of the
Yes.
departments to get things going?
What's that?
Can you someone meet during the day with these
Sure,
department heads?
sure we
So
can,
you know you won't be sitting here at night and, you know.
right? We can do that.
So I'm taking Becky, Joe didn't meet with anyone. Okay, that's really your response.
Yeah, do you remember when we used to have them, yeah.
This can't happen no more.
So,
Attended, 1, 2,
Yeah, question.
3, 4,
Yeah,
5,
so I
6,
actually work for a
7, 8,
municipality,
9, 10.
and it baffles me that the department head, because I'm a department head for a municipality. It's crazy to me that the borough manager didn't speak with the department heads, nor the department heads approach the borough manager. That's another question.
Yeah, it goes both ways, you're right.
You know, it goes both ways here. You know, you got the building code official here, you got the fire chief here, they knew this was going on. Where are the other ones at? That could help solve some of the issues tonight. Hey, those numbers look right, they don't look right. Another thing too is this, you know, I get expenditures and revenues every month in a packet that the council gave. It will actually show me 2022, 2021, 2020. It will actually show me the year-to-date totals and everything, which actually would have been helpful too tonight to be able to compare those, the percentage increase each year. It's the same thing when we go to the police, you talk about, we don't know, if we're gonna be able to hire, you know, police officers. We have $2 million. When I look at my budget at work, it's actually broken down per officer. So then I would know,
We was hoping we got that because we had it from Homestead.
yeah. So I can tell you, every officer in that municipality, what they make. So if I know I'm losing this one, and this one, and then let's say, okay, we can't afford to hire 4, but we might be able to hire 2, and we know that rate that they're coming in at, and then we would know our savings. So this to me is kind of generic too, looking at it because I can't see anything previous.
It's not kinda, it is.
Yeah.
We can start from scratch.
Becky, for the police, would that have been our former chief's responsibility to actually send what he thought, or was this just taken off something, you know?
Well, the 2 million now was 2.9 last year. So with who we thought we're gonna go with their salaries and their benefits and everything else, that's where I came up with the 2 million.
so that's losing. That's
We took
losing several
$900,000
of
off. We already took $900,000 off. That's just a guesstimate.
Listen,
We actually start our budget talks in September.
Yep.
I meet with the borough manager and we have a finance director. We compare last year's budget. I bring a wish list. The finance director and the borough manager will put in increases for, you know, healthcare, pensions, anything, all those increases in there. And then we can kind of adjust, you know, kind of like my wants and not really needs to, if we can add it, we can add it. And as I said, this is very generic, you know, I look at it.
It's purposely
It
done.
doesn't tell me anything, it
It's
just tells me that.
It's purposely done that way.
Here it is.
Purposely done that way. And the fire chief will tell you, in prior years, it was always itemized down through each department.
On the police budget, it was itemized patrolman's wages, sergeant's wages,
how many-
cattle's wages. Well, you have to figure that out.
So chief, you wanted to say something, go
I
ahead.
changed my mind. It's just, I was gonna remind you guys, you don't need me to remind you this, but the process tonight should have been, and it's good that we're talking about this stuff, but I want to remind council, the ones that are here, because you haven't gone through this a lot, you two haven't gone through this at all. I've just been sitting here for 20 years going through this, so I've been watching the process.
So you know the process.
Yes, but you guys have to vote on the budget. We reopen the budget tonight, so someone here, I would assume, is going to motion to
Rescind
the budget.
either rescind the opening of the budget or to open the budget again.
Yeah, if you reopen the budget, then you set your millages and then close the budget, and then after all that stuff, you know, or you can wait, you know, I mean, it might be dangerously close to waiting. But I don't think you can wait, to be honest
If
with
we
you.
reopen the budget tonight, where everything has
The
to be
10
done
days
for
hits
that.
it,
Is it
February
within 10
2nd is the 10 days.
Now,
Wednesday is the 10-day mark.
Advertisement out.
saying that, I pointed out some things to this council earlier on that were missing from the fire budget. So if you open it up and it's $1.5 million, or $1.5 mil increase, I may not get all those things, you know what I mean, because council still has to divvy up where the funding's gonna go from, you know, applicably. I think we'll be fine all around the board. And to answer the questions about the police department, no, that's pretty generic, but you should know where the cost is. You know what your cost is for the coming year based upon attrition, and also what their salary increases and benefits costs are. That's factored into the police budget. They don't really have any discretionary spending. They don't have a lot of that. You know what I mean? Most of their stuff is salary benefits related. Police cars are factored into their budget as well, I think. But naturally, Scott should be, you know, you gotta ask that to Scott.
They're not in the budget.
So,
They're looking for,
They can come out of forfeiture too.
but they're looking,
Yeah.
forfeiture order, there's a possible grant. I talked to Sergeant Cease last week.
Yeah, he was.
There's a possible grant he's looking into for police cars.
So-
And he's talking to our grants writer about that.
Anything from forfeiture can't be used on budget items.
Right.
It's not budgeted.
Right.
Right. So I'm gonna take the blame for not having the chief here and the engineer. I probably should have pushed them to come. And I apologize for not doing that. I'm gonna take a little bit more responsibility now as chairman, as president of council, that I will personally ask them to attend every meeting we have. I think we should have a police officer, someone representing our police department here every meeting, whether it be a workshop or a council meeting. And certainly, we'll ask that we have someone from Public Works be at every meeting as well, both workshop and council meetings, from now until the end of the year.
I'll call the chief.
And certainly, if we need to, we will have our engineer here and our attorney here as well for workshops if needed, or if any other special meetings come up, we will have them in attendance so that we won't be working with our left hand behind our right hand back.
There are times you need the attorney here. You always have to remember, to have the attorney here, there's an extra charge for that every time, too, to have the solicitor here.
I understand.
Billing him with a tight budget, we may have to watch how many times we have him here if we really don't need him. If we need him, bring him in.
So I think one thing that has been touched on here is this building. This building has been a major expense for us. It's been a capital expense that we have not really totally fiscally planned for. I think we need to look into the top floor and the floor above this, into how we can move forward into making it an asset and making it, maybe pay for the building. So, maybe one of you councilmen would like to get involved with that. Maybe we can speak to some real estate people, professionals in the real estate business as to.
I was waiting for somebody to tell me we could do it. I'd do it in a minute.
I'm bringing that up on council floor here. If you guys would like to discuss it, I think we need to start looking at it.
I would like to do it. I was going to ask Mr. Hanna, you are with who now? Presby?
I work for the corporate organization, UPMC, but the Turtle Creek folks, when the public hearing, okay, said they were interested. Okay, now, the rate that was quoted was very low. I believe the square footage was like $3.25. But, yes, that is correct.
What is the going rate?
Depends on where you're at. If you're in the city of Pittsburgh before the pandemic, it was, $17, $18, Local, I don't know what the going rate is here local, but I would sit there, I think the one thing in reference to this building is, I guess between code enforcement and the borough engineer, there's more money to be spent, right? To get it up to code so you can move the police department, right? Okay? Move the rest of the administration in here, okay? And then looking at the ability of, lessening, like you can't turn the heat off over there without breaking a pipe, okay?
You turn it down.
That's obvious, okay? But the longer you wait, okay, the longer this building waits to finish, I mean, you figure you're paying $300,000 there, we all are, okay, for that bond, okay? So you need to get to the business of getting this building complete, okay? Then assessing with the fire department, right there, what needs to be done with the rest of the building itself, okay? What part of it can you actually, in a sense, cocoon without causing structural problems or other problems for which you have a borough engineer, you have code enforcement, you bring other professionals in to give you that. Because you can't, you would look at, I remember there was Heckinger's and they merged with someone else. They were like 2 miles apart. And within a period of 4 years, they both went bankrupt. Well, you have to take some of the expense out, okay? You have expenses here and you have expenses there. So you have to do that regardless. You're going to have to spend money right now to finish this facility. So then the possibility of lowering the expenses by not having to power that building or parts of the building itself, it might be the fact right there that you look at and then suddenly, well, where does the power and the cooling and the heating for that building come to the fire department? They can't need power and heat and cool. So that is someone would need to look at that too. You might, and it might up then that you may need more money if you shut that down on top of that, if there needs to be a new facility for the fire department. Which was like the whole thought, my concerns back when this was all being done was, besides the fact that you did a study, this facility was granted itself, $600,000 was spent for demolition before you had a bond. Another $200 and some thousand were spent on preparing bid documents right there. And this was all before the bond, okay? And then you have a bond itself. It can go up, by the way, okay? That was the part that I said in the meeting right there. The bond can be called. And if the bond is called, right there. So think about it. Or the interest rate, what is the federal government doing right now?
Raising it.
They're going to raise the rate, okay? So you have a pretty good rate. You're going to need to look at the people that did the bond and find out right there, what is the possibility of them calling the bond, okay? Which is why I said all the things, and it was a 6-0 vote. So you all were saddled, along with the residents of this borough, with some very difficult decisions to be made that are not going to be real popular. So to use the raise taxes the first time in 12 years, well, I go to Ron's barbershop, he raised the haircut from $10, $12 about 2 years ago when he lost some customers. But you have some people that aren't going to be very happy, that's obvious. So you got to get to the business of getting the answers. And I think you know that right there. And that way, you can tell a story. Most of the time right there, you can tell a story. Now, some people don't listen either. They don't care the fact right there that you haven't raised taxes. You haven't done this. I mean, there's a lot of positive things that get done in this borough too. So they're not all gloom and doom.
Right.
They're not, okay? Everything, I know my street's salted. I'm pretty darn happy. I mean, I can go to other places right there and I'm all over the road. I don't have to worry about when I go in Munhall. I don't have to worry about the
Our
police.
garbage is the best.
But we spent a lot of money for the salt.
We
We spent a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely, there's another variable
A lot of
cost.
money, a lot of labor, overtime. I mean, so
We had
there's,
about $30,000 worth of overtime this last pay.
Right.
I think our borough's what, 3 miles, and I was telling my wife, I said, the city of Pittsburgh is 58 miles. They have 62 salt trucks. Glenn, how many salt trucks do we have?
Actually, don't know.
8 for a 3-mile area, less than a 3-mile area. The city of Pittsburgh only has 62.
For 58 months.
Right, so that's why everyone complains about the city of Pittsburgh things, but we have a good bit of salt. We use them, and
Well,
everyone's happy for it.
They've always been good.
Right, it's always been good.
Munhall's never been bad, except
Right.
for the one time they didn't want to clean my street because they were fighting with the county.
You know, the taxes never went up either with the library.
I see you're hiding behind
That's
that
right.
post.
That's right,
The
Don.
taxes never went up when everybody voted to donate to the library.
That's
It
right.
only went up
That's right.
0.33%.
Right.
That's right.
And I did get a package today from the county, there's more additions, so that's gonna be an ongoing not a lot, but it's gonna be nothing but an increase. I mean, there will be some refunds from the fighting, but anytime somebody buys a house,
I don't know who's fighting anymore.
And it's
but Joe did all
reassessed.
that.
It's gonna be an increase.
I really want to say, just for the record, I thank you all for what you're saying to all of us and for being here. This is what we need. And we need to all work together, all of us.
I have a question for Ed. Did you ever approach the manager or anyone, what the plans were for the fire company after this all took place?
Many times.
What did you get no answer?
No one ever officially approached me about anything. One time recently, maybe 5-6 months ago, I was asked to come up with a plan for what to do with the fire department.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about? So I jotted down some notes, but that may not be what they have in mind or what the fire department. There was no real plan for the fire department. The one thing I think that a lot of people don't, it was mentioned to me a couple of things that all you need is really a place for the trucks, stuff like that. And I'd like to point out to council and to you folks that when you build a fire station today, you have to bring it up and build it to modern NFPA standards. You need air purification systems. You need to have a separate gear room where you put your gear. It can't be in the truck bay anymore. It has to have a separate room. You have to have a filtration system or a separator for diesel fuel out of your floor drains, your garage floors. So the days of building a block building and throwing up a tin building and calling that a fire station are gone. So fire stations traditionally cost anywhere from $3 to, I've seen them as high as $15 million, not in this area. But just so you know, you don't just put up a tin building and call it a fire station now. There's a lot more that factors into that. So I was never personally, formally asked or discussed, really. We had one meeting, I think, with council that we were just, I just walked in on. It was a meeting with, 201 had called a meeting with council, and I sat through it. We just spitballed a bunch of stuff, but there's a grander plan, some more thoughts that have to happen before we can finalize that. There's a lot of balls rolling around here, Brian. Different ideas.
Thanks.
Okay, so, moving on, do I have a motion, or do we have a consensus what we plan on doing? Are we gonna leave it at 1.5? Are we gonna open the budget to raise it? Are we gonna open the budget to lessen it? We need a decision.
One question, Mr. President. So there's a line item completely missing for hydrant service. And I guess does that have to be reopened to add a line item? It's missing.
The short answer is no.
That's where the solicitor would come into play.
Right, got that.
Because it's a completely missing line item. 'Cause I look through there and can't find it anywhere.
It's
Even
not
like
there.
on the general, everywhere.
I think this meeting is just to set the millage, is it not?
Yeah.
Beck, is this meeting just to set the millage?
Well, we needed either one, leave the budget as it is. Two, we have to open the budget and change the millage to raise it, or change the millage to rescind the actual 1.5.
So I guess what I'm asking is a couple things. One, parliamentary procedure, you voted or you advertised for the budget meeting, correct?
Correct.
So we can't really talk about, can't go off that, we gotta stay on budget, right?
Right.
Council.
That's what it is.
So you're gonna vote tonight to authorize the millage or authorize the budget. And if it's the budget, then you have to authorize it amended. I believe Jim's correct. You have to authorize it amended with those line items. But that's just my thinking. I could be wrong, Rick. I'm not sure. You can, if you, I don't know. Yeah, you'd have to.
That's what I was thinking, because it's a completely missing line item. There's no number there for it.
I can tell you that that's happened in the past, okay, over the years, no matter who was on council and who the borough manager was, there's things that have been missed line item wise. Somehow we got through it, you know what I mean? You may not necessarily need to add a line item as more, as you're putting more funding into one of the existing line items.
Right.
And just saying whatever's for that on any of our budgets, you know?
In speaking with the solicitor before the meeting, he said that these line items can be shifted, finances can be shifted from one line item to another line item, or we'll call it, we won't even call it a line item, we'll call it from one category to another category, from one department to another department. So I don't see it as being a necessary thing that we need to have it listed as a new line item in there. We know it's a general expense that the borough incurs every year. It's not something that's new to us. It's not something that we're not going to pay. So for all intents and purposes, we know it's not written down in here. We know it's been talked about, and we know all these issues that Chief Pletch has brought up to us need to be attended to and talked about and dealt with. But they certainly don't need a new line item for each one. So I think my own personal opinion is, let's just either vote to leave the budget alone, leave it go, vote to rescind the opening of the budget, or we need to open the budget and discuss on what we want to do with it. I'm going to take a motion vote on this, I guess?
I'll make a motion to leave it alone.
Is there a second?
You know what, if we leave it at 1.5 mils, I'm good with that, because we still don't know what we're gonna do with the upstairs and other things, so.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the motion? Anyone? All in favor? Aye. So it's unanimous. We're gonna leave it at 1.5 mil.
Rick, if I could, just a comment on the budget for you guys that may understand. In the past, near the end of the year, there may have been money left over in the fire budget or something like that, and the street department needed a truck or something like that that exploded or whatever. And that money is in the budget. It was under my line item, and then that money just disappeared because it went to pay for that. So you put the money where the needs are. This budget that you sign is a guideline. You know where you need to spend money, and then you have your discretionary funding in there. And you do have the ability. But like Bernie said, everything that you do, if you're moving money around, does have to be voted. You guys all have to have a consensus. You can't just, somebody just can't randomly change stuff. You vote on it. So you guys all have a say in where the money goes in the budget as voting members, right? So
It just can't be done by just the manager or whoever wants to move it, because maybe one council person wants it to go into public works, somebody else wants it to go to recreation. So that all have to be, debated or whatever, and a vote would have to be taken to move it.
Why didn't you say that when you were on council?
Say,
Huh? Why didn't you say it when you were on council when they were here?
It should have been said.
Well, why didn't you say you were a councilman? Huh? Answer that question. You can't. We wouldn't be in this situation if people would speak up and speak their mind.
I don't think we need to look back. I think we need to
No,
look
I didn't
forward.
think so.
Do you have to have the verbiage of the 12.25 on that ordinance when you vote? You don't put 1.5, don't you have to put the 12.25
12.25, yeah.
as an ordinance when you vote? You have to set the millage
Is that
as
what you have to do?
12.25.
Yes, set at 12.25, yeah,
Yeah.
Instead of just voting on 1.5 mil.
right. It's the wording the ordinance has to have.
So what should the wording, or what are you saying the wording should be?
You have to state that the ordinance of the millage is 12.25. You can't say it's 1.5.
Increasing it 1.1.
Up 1.5.
Yeah.
You have to say it's 12.25, I believe.
Yes,
I'm not
correct.
the solicitor. I'm just trying to cover your butts.
You're
Thank you,
right.
Dawn.
You're right.
So we did vote on 1.5 mil, so.
So
we have a
the
motion.
new millage will be 1.25?
12.
It's
12.25.
So be it.
You just need to take a motion on that.
You gotta make a motion.
I thought we did make a motion.
Not at the
We did it on
12.25, just on the
I'll
mill.
take.
I'll make the
Becky,
motion on
would you read the
12.25.
motion for us?
The motion is to increase the millage to 12.25. That's the, it can't say 1.5 mils, to
Make
increase
the
it
motion.
1.5.
She
Okay.
read it, so he makes a motion.
Okay.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
Any questions
Okay.
on the motion again? Motion passes.
Thank you,
All
Don.
in favor, correct?
Thank you, Don.
Good. Wow.
Do we want to schedule time with Public Works and the police for someone to come and talk with them this week? Probably
What's
tomorrow,
that?
it has to be tomorrow,
For what?
for their
Input on the budget.
input on the budget.
Well,
I mean, we accepted it the way it is. but
here's what I think
there's-
we ought to do. I think we ought to appoint someone from our council who can sit down and meet with and take, I don't think we need to have everyone from council do that. I think, Mr. Rondo can meet with Public Works, and I think, Mr. Youngkins can meet with the police department, with the mayor, and we can get,
And I'll
if the mayor
probably
can
go
meet with us.
between the two if you want.
They can do that and start the process, because we need to express to these heads that we're not happy with what we have, and that we want a final number on, we want a detailed motion on what they need and what they want, where we're at. And we can move further with administration. Rini, I'm gonna let you be in charge of administration, and you can sit down with Becky and go over some of the fine-tooth things of that, and that way you three guys can work on that, and I can certainly help all of you deal with any of that you need.
If Dave and I could do both the borough guys, the street department and the police department, we could probably knock that out in one day. Glenn, would you say we could knock that out in one day?
Should be able to.
Well, here's what you need to do. You need to go to them and say,
Right.
listen, this is what we want. And then you need to have a follow-up meeting after because they're not gonna be able to say, oh,
Right.
you're gonna have to follow up with them and say, you know, what's our labor gonna cost us? What are you looking at? Where are you at here? What's it costing us? We're gonna go over all those numbers, and we'll crunch everything, and we'll double crunch it again, and then we'll meet and say, March 1st. Give ourselves a month to work on
They
it.
have to be prepared to come to you with what they want. If y'all just come without some kind of plan, it'll take forever.
Right, no,
You have to have a formal proposal of what they need.
Correct.
Right there. You'll be wasting your time if you don't have that at the beginning.
Did you get your fee schedule raised?
No, we
Mr.
talked
Hannah, what you
about
got
that.
go ahead,
They
Mr. Hannah.
talked about that.
All right. I'm in charge of UPMC's communications infrastructures, okay? It's a lot of money. 30 hospitals, 1,000 locations. Every year I have to present a budget to finance and executive management, okay? I use the finance department right there to verify my numbers on the spend from the previous year, whether that be a capital expense or an operating expense. And I have to come there and say, you know, why I need to spend the money, okay? I have so many telephone systems that are no longer in manufacturer support, okay? In a hospital, lifeblood of a hospital, is a telephone system, okay? Lifeblood of a hospital are their wireless networks and their data networks and a lot of things right there. Direct the patient care, okay? This is no different here than what the police department has right there, and they have the subject matter experts in the fire department and the public works department. I would be surprised if they would not come to you and say, here's what we need to run our departments and stuff. Now, every time I'll ask for a lot more money I know I'm gonna get, but then I'm being asked right there is like, hey, can we live one more year without this, okay? And what's the risk associated with doing it, okay? And it comes down to what's your tolerance for risk itself. There's some things that aren't negotiable, and there's some things that are negotiable. An example would be expense on paving the road. This year, the budget is $400,000. Okay, last year we spent, I believe the number's about 180, 175, okay? They've increased it $225,000. I would think the borough engineer, the code enforcement, know where the problem spots are.
Right.
Okay? So they're gonna say, you know what do you think? Can you do it for $350? What happens if we only spent $2? And he's gonna know, he's gonna tell you. He's a subject matter expert, he's a trusted expert for the borough, okay? And he's gonna give you that, okay? And that's the thing right there, the decisions that you all make together can't be politically motivated, they have to be based on need right there and doing the right thing, okay? My question in reference to the fire station right there across the way, are you up to code? You know, right there. Do you meet the codes today that you need? If you build a new fire station, I think that was really, I learned something today. No, it's not a shack. it needs this and it needs that. So planning, and you have a planning commission, okay? And on top of that right there, another subject matter expert, he's gonna know what it's gonna take, okay? And you have some tough decisions to make, including, I didn't grow up in this area, so I don't have the nostalgia growing up in this area of Westfield, okay? I don't.
I do.
Well, when I was here, all I knew when I was president of baseball, I had an issue trying to even get the field maintained. So it's really good right there that the Campbell family have done that. But at a certain point, that field's gonna wear out too. Okay, now, those expenses that you have right there, is that money gonna come another time? You're just gonna have a worn out field. Do I really think that you could, if the field, and I don't know the numbers it costs, but yeah, could you put that money in the piggy bank right there to hold it in arrears for the next upgrade of the field?
It'll cost $1 million to replace that turf. That was estimated 6 years ago, so now it's probably 1.3 million.
Okay, so you have
And how much
inflation.
money has been put away in the budget for it? I mean, through these 6 years? Probably nothing.
Is it every 10 years?
If you're renting a house or anything else, you know what your expenses are, like you're saying, you start the budget.
One thing I don't see in the budget right there, where's the depreciation expense? You depreciate, you have a plant ledger, right? It gets depreciated. I mean, I work with finance people, I work with legal people, I work with construction people, I work with IT people. We're a lot of different people, have a lot of different experiences, but it's just a lot of work with these folks. I think you know that.
Rick,
Thank you.
as for the Bennett.
I know you guys are, you're gonna have some tough sledding for the next few months with how things have been handed to your lap. But I know, and I think it was briefly talked about before, but up until a few years ago, we used to, like, at least me and Ed, we would come up with our numbers every year and then make a presentation at the budget meeting. And it was like negotiating, okay, we're asking for this, but you get this, and so on and so forth. And that was done with all of the departments.
In November.
Yeah, sometimes we do it in October. We do it, you can start in September, however.
October,
It's gonna be finalized by November.
And so on and so forth, and that seemed to work out really well, and they got away from it, and I don't know why, but I think you guys are definitely on the right track, looking for budget numbers and everything. I think come next year's budget, if you implement that again, you're gonna have a much easier time coming for next year of, you know, of what everybody's gonna have. I mean, you're gonna have some idea. It's not gonna be the full thing coming, you know, we're gonna try to put numbers together in a couple months, so on and so forth, to give you an idea. But I think come next year, or come October, September, if you start doing these meetings with all of these departments, I think you're gonna have a much easier time with this budget. I mean, I thought it worked well, you know, and you made your piece. You know, you didn't get everything you want, but you had enough to make it work, kind of thing. And I think that's something you guys need to really consider going, you know, moving forward for next year.
Thank you, Glenn. I agree.
Too, Rick, remember this, and Bernie wrote this, at 6 months, we used to take a good look at the budget to see where we're at. We would take a look in July. Okay, here's where we gotta tighten our belts. Okay, we're under here, we're over there. We used to take a good look at the 6 month point. We need to get back to that.
Remind everybody that things do happen during the course of the year that take money out of the budget that are unforeseen.
Right.
So you need to, you know, go on, like it said right now, you gotta say, hey, in June, we gotta take a good look at this. And you've done it before, you were
Absolutely.
finance chair, Rick, and I've done it, you know, before, and Bernie's done it.
Rick, are we allowed as council to have, like Mr. Hannah or Mr. Barker or anybody come with us? Or does this strictly have to be, let's say, me and administration,
So-
you with public work? Because I'll be the first one to say, I don't know the questions to
So-
ask. I
so-
would like to have input.
I just want to formally end the meeting. Can we formally end the meeting?
You need a motion.
Should I make a motion to end the meeting? I need a motion.
Motion, second.
Okay, we're going to call the meeting to adjourn.